Welcome to the Public Speaking Horror Show, the podcast where we explore the darker side of speaking and of our voices. I'm your host, Laura Reid. Today's guest is no stranger to the darker side. What happens when you combine a retired paramedic supervisor, a paranormal investigator, and a metaphysical frequency explorer into one powerhouse woman? You get Marie Hathaway Myung, today's guest, and a walking, talking vortex of curiosity, courage, and cosmic connection. Marie has over 35 years of experience exploring the unseen world. She's a lifelong intuitive, a paranormal investigator, and the host of the Mindful Magic podcast. She's also been an audiobook narrator who believes that voice is frequency. And when used with intention, it becomes a direct channel to healing, truth, and maybe even a few ghosts. So whether she's tracking spirits across Oahu with her paranormal team, sharing guided meditations that calm your soul, or working to bring life back into Hawaii's creative industries, Marie is someone who speaks from a place most of us don't even know how to access. Please help me welcome today's guest, Marie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here with you, Laura. This is going to be so much fun. But I'm a little nervous because I don't know what you're going to ask. So I'm like, okay.
You don't. That is correct. Okay. You do not know. Here comes the Killer 13. Marie did not, I don't share with any guests any of the questions in advance.
I want one of those little buzzers like, ding, I got it.
Right. Yeah. There's no real right or wrong answer. It's mostly like to get to know you a little bit more. So are you ready for the Killer 13?
Ready.
Here we go. Number one. What's the scariest thing in your refrigerator?
Oh, okay. Embarrassing, but I think it's still in there. I opened the cupboard, our pantry last night and found our yogurt in there. And I opened it up and I smelled it. It was still a little cool and I smelled it and it smelled fine. And I put it back in the refrigerator thinking, it's probably fine. And then asked my husband, how come that was in there? And he's like, I did it again. So that is potentially the scariest thing in there right now.
Science project going on
I
with
probably
that.
should throw it away. He's going to get another one at Costco today. And so I
there you go.
should throw it away.
All right. Number two, who would win a game of horse, the basketball game? Vampires or werewolves?
Vampires, because they have opposable thumbs.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Absolutely.
Werewolves would just like the ball.
Absolutely. What crystal do you have as like your go-to when you need a little boost?
I have a really giant piece of black tourmaline that's really powerful. So when I hold that sucker, I just immediately get grounded. It's just a beautiful piece of rock, too.
Oh, I love it. I might need one of those. All right. Do you have a favorite paranormal reality show?
Oh, good Lord. I like Nick Groff. I like Kindred Spirits, and I like see, I have to it's not so rapid fire on this one, but a friend of mine is Lloyd Auerbach, and he is Professor Paranormal. If anybody is familiar with him, he's a parapsychologist. He teaches at the Rhine Institute. He's been into parapsychology for decades, and he's investigated too many things to tell. So he kind of knows the ins and outs of even that his father was in television. So I have a little inside scoops on who's kind of the real deal and who's not. So based on that, I tend to go with what I think is the real deal.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to have to check that out. Awesome. All right. If you could concoct a magic potion, what would it do?
It would allow each and every person to access their innermost, I don't want to say darkness, their innermost shadows and instantly transform them into their best version of themselves without having to go through the pain and anguish and remembrance and work of actually working through them.
Wow.
Ding.
Yeah, that hits
That'd be
hard.
kind of cool.
Yeah, just straight to best version. That would be
Yeah,
I love that so
just like
much.
that.
Yeah, we'd save so much time. Like,
Yeah.
wow. All right, what song always gets you dancing?
Oh gosh, Journeys Don't Stop Believing.
Yes, I love that one. Yeah,
Hmm.
awesome. I think we're from, like, the same generation,
Yeah.
so yeah, I get you, yeah. If you were a vehicle, what would you be?
1968 Ford Bronco.
It's so specific, I love it. Yeah, why that?
Because it was always a car that or truck vehicle that I wanted and never got. And I just felt
Mm,
so, I'm a car girl.
yeah.
I wrote a car repair book for girls. It's called A Girl's Guide to Car Repair.
Oh my
I grew
gosh,
up
love
in
that.
my dad's garage building antique cars. My dad had
Wow.
a love for the old stuff. So I learned how to work on cars at a very early age because that was the only way to spend time with my dad. The oldest car we had was a 1914 Buick. It had the license plate. It said horseless carriage. But it had the giant wooden steering wheel and the giant wooden spoke wheels. The tires on it were actually a solid rubber tube that went around because they didn't have it. It wasn't an inflatable thing back then. If he was going to drive it around and he could just be on flat ground, then he could drive it by himself. But they didn't have gas pumps back then. So if he needed to go up any hills, he had to have somebody in the passenger seat physically pumping air into the gas tank to get it pressurized to feed it to go uphill. So just a little background on my love of cars. Now, I always had muscle cars growing up, um, specifically Mopars, Dodge and Plymouth Challengers, and I'm a car girl. And one of the things I always wanted was a 1968 Ford Bronco. And they
Wow.
came out with Broncos. Ford came out with the newer ones. And I love that robin's egg blue with the white top, the heritage. So if anybody out there has an extra 80,000
Yeah, I
that they want
know.
to, Sasquatch package, they just want to gift me that, I'll be okay with
That's
that.
one of my dream cars here too for the island, like, because 'cause I've seen them, the newer Ford Broncos where the one where it's a convertible top, I'm, like, dying to have one of those. I think that would be so much fun. But, okay, that's awesome. That went on a segue I did not know, but I learned a lot about you, which I love. Alright, if you could go back in time and tell your child self, little Marie, one thing, what would you say to her?
Hmm. I would say, you know what you know. You just be confident in what you know. I knew things as a child. Yeah. And I had confidence.
Number 9. What's more powerful, voice or intuition?
Intuition,
Mm, why is
because you
that?
can choose to stay quiet and
Oh,
you can
yeah.
do a lot of action without saying anything. So knowing something, having intuition about something, you wouldn't necessarily, I'm kind of rethinking it. You wouldn't necessarily need your voice. If you have an
Mm,
intuition about something, like just say, for example, it's a situation, you don't even need your voice. You can just remove yourself from the situation.
I love it. Alright, if you could interview any, any person who's passed, who would it be?
I don't know why Judy Garland comes to mind. I just loved her, as a child. And I just always thought she was so beautiful and so talented. And she went through a lot. And I don't know why she comes to mind. There's probably a whole slew of
Mm.
people, but she
She
would
is
be one of
so
them.
fascinating. Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite movies, and yeah, it would be amazing to kind of pick her brain a little bit. Yeah,
Can I say one
absolutely.
thing about me
Of
that probably
course.
people don't know that only my cousins know? So, my grandfather, he was kind of a techie. He had things before other people had things because he was just fascinated with that. He was an electrician. And so he had a projector screen TV. Nobody else even knew what that was. So we would watch movies there. But on the side of the living room, kind of for us grandkids, he had a little TV with VHS or probably beta at the time, two movies that he had. One was The Wizard of Oz, and the other was Aliens,
Oh, wow. I love
or Alien, the
it.
first one. So
Yeah. Good
that
selection.
might give people some insight into why I am the way I am from and my cousins too. Those were the two movie choices we had as kids.
Well, that leads right into, I swear it's the next question. Like, do you have a favorite spooky or horror movie?
Um, you know what I'm hoping will be my next one is the newest Conjuring one that's out right now. I really, I don't go to the movie theater so much because I don't have $1,000 to spend on, on movies. Um, but I usually wait for them to come home, right? But this one, I was reading about it, and it's like it's terrifying people in the theaters. They're leaving with a sense of dread. And I'm like,
Oh,
I haven't
yeah.
had that since, I mean, I can't remember something that truly scared me. I
Mm,
think because real life is so much scarier. I love the jump scares
yeah.
in movies. So I always kind of tend towards those versus like the gratuitous saws and axes and stuff that we probably watched more when we were teenagers. Um, so like any of those, something that it has something unseen that
Yeah.
you can't physically fight is always kind of the scary good movies for me.
It is.
So trying to think of like, I mean, The Exorcist from when we were little,
Yeah. It's
that
such a good one still.
that was pretty terrifying when you were little. But I've had paranormal experiences in real life that I
Yeah.
think are, have the potential to be scarier than any of the movies I've
Oh,
seen.
real
So
life is always way more terrifying. I think maybe that's why I love horror movies because I'm controlling my fear. I'm making a choice for it. Maybe
yeah.
that's why. The summer I saw Bring Her Back, it was called,
Oh,
and it's terrifying. It's such a good one. I highly recommend that. I think you would like
okay. I'm
it.
going to remember
Yeah,
that.
there's
Bring
a
her
lot
back.
of like I think horror movies are taking this new age where the storytelling is so good. It's not just jump scares or bloodbath or it's like really just amazing stories. And I think that's an example of one. All right. What haunted destination would you love to visit or have you visited?
Um, I would love to visit. What? Oh, it's escaping me. It's a. Is it called Wayland? No, no, no. Uh, shoot. I think it starts with a W. It's like an old um sanctuary asylum that's
Mm.
been condemned, but people go there and they have lots and lots of experiences. What is that called? I'm sure your listeners.
Is it in upstate New York?
It's somewhere
Oh,
back there. Shoot.
I can't think of it right now, but around where I'm from in upstate New York, there's a haunted asylum kind of place with like a obscene amount of people died there and it was kind of hidden. But I can't think of what it's called right now, but I've really wanted to visit there. The
Yeah.
photographs of it are terrifying. I'll look it up and find it. It might be
Yeah.
what you're thinking of. And I feel like it begins with a W too.
Yeah.
But
That place would be, you know, but also I want to go to with my friend Lloyd, because he lives in the Bay Area and that's where I'm from originally. The USS Hornet has a lot of paranormal activity. And I don't know that it's so much terrifying as it's just active. So that would be a really fun place to go. I did visit like the in New Orleans, Marie Laveau. That wasn't so much scary, but there was some powerful energy there. There was very powerful energy there. There's also here on Oahu, there is the Waimano home. We just call it Waimano home. It is actually a condemned, not so much condemned, there's portions of it that are condemned, old asylum sanctuary where they would put mentally challenged children and any even some, I think, some criminally tinged people there as well. And so there were a lot of deaths there. There was a lot of mistreatment there. But that one's a scary one. I've been outside of it. I've been inside of it. I actually had EMT classes in there. And, we would mop the floor going backwards and look back, and there'd be footprints in it. So there's definitely spirits there.
Wow. So before we get to our last question, I'm really just curious about this. When you do enter a space or a home and you like, do you just feel it immediately that there's some kind of activity there or a presence there? And if it is in some, do you ever feel that in someone's just regular home? And do you share it with them? Or I'm curious about that.
I will have to say it kind of depends, because I don't know if I want to call it ADD or whatever it is. I get really excited when I see my friends and go into places. So I'm kind of like, but when um, the excitement settles down, and then if I tune in and just kind of ground myself, I feel like I get approached. It's more like, oh, somebody's here that can, see, or yeah. And do I tell them? It depends. I kind of tune into their, I guess, higher self, telepathy. Like, is this something that they would want to know? And if it feels like that's something that they would be okay knowing, then I'll find a way to bring it up.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Yeah, interesting. I've gone into some houses. I'll never forget this one. It was just an open house in Alexandria, Virginia. And I went down into the basement, and it had obviously been some kind of like they're preparing for, zombie apocalypse or something. It was like this whole kind of, there's like a decontamination type shower, it seemed like. But there was this big easy chair, I remember, in a corner. And it was suddenly like there was such a heaviness in the air that I felt. And like without a doubt, I knew someone was sitting in that chair. And I just like, it's like I couldn't get out of that space fast enough. So it's like suddenly I'm going through, like, it's like moving through water, something to try to get up out of those stairs. And I'm like, yeah, we're definitely not buying this house. But it's just that feeling. Hasn't happened a lot in my life, but I'll never forget that presence that I felt there, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, and like sounds like it was probably a male presence, and he really didn't want anybody buying the house,
Yeah, he's
right?
right. Yep. This is my yeah, don't mess I'm vibing in my chair right
Ooh,
now. And yeah, yeah.
I got like the little chicken skin,
Yeah.
which I still do, which I like because things are scary and it's fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, that could
Yeah.
that could potentially be dangerous for somebody.
Totally. Yeah. I wonder what happened with all that. All right.
Yeah.
You almost have survived this though. We're under our last question. I like to keep it nice and light for this one. So,
Okay.
Marie, can you tell us, what do you believe happens when we die?
Oh, I love this question. I believe that our physical body, which is just a shell and a vehicle for this particular life, as it's been, different bodies have been for multiple lives, at least on Earth. I think other places, maybe there's a different type of vehicle, if whether it's energetic or physical, I don't know, but I'm kind of leaning towards that. I think your soul pops out. Your soul is so much bigger than what you are, what you perceive your physical body to be.
Mm,
And I think you're kind of able to look around and realize, like, I think you're happy. I think that you feel a certain care and sadness. I don't even know if it's sadness, but you do feel for the people that you left behind that are mourning for you. But I don't think you're like, oh, but it's so much so that I want to go back there. I think you feel so free. You're in your normal state of being when you're not in your body. I've heard so much, just over the years, it's kind of hard to ignore when you hear so many accounts of near death experiences, out of body experiences, all that sort of genre, that you go through some sort of life review, that there's a little bit of maybe a cocooning period where you're sort of in that transition, maybe, because it's even though you popped out, there's got to be some lingering, stuff
Mm,
to deal with. I don't think there's not a time construct or concept on the other side once you pop out. And so it's so interesting to try to think of what that would be like.
mm,
Um, but I think that you, depending what your soul group, if you have one, whoever you're connecting with on the other side, if you decide you want to come back and when and with who, and what you want to come back to do the next time,
mm,
if it's on Earth. If it's, I do believe there's other places to go or nowhere to go. Just
mm.
be and be part of everything that is.
Oh, that's beautiful. Be part of everything that is, and just the peace of that, the freedom, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I joke about it, like, I don't really wanna come back and have to live, like, a whole 'nother life, like, learning my lessons that I haven't quite figured out yet here. Like, it's just like, I'm tired. Like, I just I want the peace. I wanna to keep paying bills and all the things. Like, I'm ready for that, like, higher higher experience, I think would be so nice. Congratulations, you survived this. I hope you had fun. We learned a lot about you, and I love
You
that
did.
so much. Right?
I'm an open book.
Yeah, I love
What?
that.
Somebody's going to judge me?
Yeah.
So do it. I don't
Yeah.
care. I
No
don't
one's
care.
judging, we're all just in our own heads,
Mm.
right? Like, no one's thinking about anyone. Like, it's just, in a judgment way. That's what I've kinda come
Yeah.
to believe, it's kind of just in our heads, and we're all just energy exchanging, right? These
Yeah.
connections and
It comes from your
trying
own
to
stuff anyway, right? Like,
exactly, trying to just live our lives. So now it's time for some deeper dive questions, and I love this part of it because we all get to hear more of your story because you have one of the most fascinating backgrounds like I have ever read from your like decades and high stakes like emergency rooms, work to or emergency work to metaphysical spaces. Like how did, tell us more about your story, how you got into that. And I would love to also hear more about your belief that your voice is frequency and how that works if we can like how we can our listeners can kind of tap into that frequency to have more confidence perhaps or even just finding their more authentic selves in some way maybe it's a way to bypass that shadow work and get to that at least with our voice but yeah but tell us your story a bit that would be
yeah, let
yeah
me let me dive into the voice thing
okay
first. So, because it's all connected, but
yeah
I think for people who are doing any public speaking or even just daily conversation, talking with people at work or your family or your friends, I really think it's all about setting an intention.
Mm.
And it does take a little bit of work if it's not something that you're used to, because it's like you have to have a forethought. Laura, give me an example of where
Mhm.
somebody would need some confidence in speaking.
I can give you my own example. I I grew up with a stutter, and even though I eventually became much more fluid with my speaking, the shame and the kind of embarrassment that seemed to be kind of baked into my nervous system stayed with me into my adult years. And so just going around the room as an adult, like in a new job, having to introduce myself in front of people, it's like it was something about the suspense of that as it got closer and closer to my turn to speak. I would just my whole body, it would, like, dredge up all those feelings, and in one circumstance, I actually had a panic attack, I had to leave the room, but that is an example, but then, once I tapped into I didn't know that's what it is at the time with my frequency, I I just eventually started stepping into my fear rather than running away from it, and that began to change things for me with speaking. But that's an example of I needed that confidence just in a simple situation of having to say who I am in front of people, like in my job.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I mean, I could feel what you were feeling. I could feel it's like the empaths in us take that on, and I think that's a really sort of caring attribute to people. Is if you can empathize with somebody, And I think that that kind of can go into how you speak to people. So I'll I'll take my example for like when I do an audiobook, um, and especially if it's got a tone of like metaphysical or something you know um, of that nature. And I set my intention that I sort of clear my throat chakra. I want it to be clean. I don't want anything to be coming through my voice as a frequency recorded for anybody else to hear that has any of my crap in it, my stuff. I want it to be very clear. And I try to channel bringing just pure universal energy, almost like stem cells,
Mm.
just empty, beautiful energy through the frequency in my voice, regardless of what I'm saying. But I try to be very intentional with the tone and really hold that intention when I'm speaking so that when the person on the other side is hearing it, the intention is just hearing that frequency will give them what they need. And I don't have any ownership on that. I don't have any um, outcome for them except that here's a gift. I just want to give you pure, clean, energetic form, and I trust that your highest self is going to know what to do with it. Whatever portion of you that might be a little empty in your tank, um, that hopefully you're receiving it and it's going to help fill you up. You use it how you need it. It's not, like I said, it's not even me. It's just coming through me. So I can't have any ego about it. I can't have any like, um, like I said, attachment to any outcome. I just have to do it and let it go. So that's sort of where I am with um, when I purposely use my voice with frequency. And um, my soul sister and I, Kate, who we do our Mindful Magic podcast, we set that intention as well for the podcast. And then we wrote a book together. And we have a YouTube channel where I do some guided meditation. So that, again, that's the perfect, platform is like listening to it and being guided through a meditation where you try to ground yourself, calm yourself, and get maybe down to those places where you need a little bit of love and healing.
Mm. I love that you're making it really about the other person, like who's or the audience that's receiving, and they're receiving it as a gift, and they can do with it what they want. But there's so much just love there in that, and you mentioned too clearing your throat chakra. So for those who don't really understand that, like, do you have any kind of practical tips for how you do that? And how important is that throat chakra to like tune into it?
So your throat chakra is, right around your throat. The color associated with it typically and historically is like a bright blue. And there's a bunch of different ways to clear it. For me to ground myself, the easiest thing for me to do is imagine that pure universal stem cell type energy sort of coming in through what's your crown chakra and just sort of funneling down all the way through your body, out your feet, and to the core of the earth. And you can do that however you can visualize that. Some people picture your feet like growing roots and just going down and down and down past the dirt, rocks, magma, everything, and going down into the core of the earth and sort of bouncing back up through you and to whatever our source, God, whatever anybody wants to call it, is up in heaven or the universe, wherever that is, which really I think kind of all around, but just to have a visualization. And so I sort of bounce the energy between the two until I feel specifically clear. So it's going through each chakra and my body. And then I'll have it kind of stop at my throat. And I personally, I just picture it spinning like spinning. And if anything is in there, it's almost like, a dog shaking the
Mm.
water off and whatever water droplets are flying.
Yeah,
Well, whatever
yeah.
needs to be cleared is just flying off and
Mm.
being transmuted into something, else. And it clears. So for me, I need quick, easy visualization, because
Yeah.
I do not have a good attention span at all. I think it's the attention span of a flea, honestly.
I
So,
mean, that's such good advice too, though, and that if we can get a clear visualization quickly, because sometimes public speaking just out in the world, it happens unexpectedly. You might not be necessarily, planning to get up on a big stage, right? It might just come up where you're called on and it's uncomfortable and you're in front of a group and you weren't quite prepared and then suddenly you need to speak. It's really nice to have just something like a go-to grounding that clears that, and then I would think from that, you get confidence because you're not
mhm,
focusing on your fear. You're focusing on something else that's just releasing that and getting more in tune with, a higher
yeah.
frequency energy.
Right. And I think that, like, that's a perfect example if somebody's called on in the audience and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I have nothing prepared. I don't know what to say. If you can do that, just imagine it super quickly and just sort of have that intention in your mind um, to whatever your go to is, whether it's God or your spirit guides or grandma, ancestors, whatever it may be, just you can say, help me speak clearly, help me get my intention out, help me let the people around me hear what they need to hear. You know, you can say those quick intentions as well.
I love
And
that. It's like an
I,
ask and you shall receive kind of prayer of, yeah, help me, like give me the confidence, help me right now, find my voice and speak. That's beautiful.
and it can be instant, you don't really need to take the time like everybody's staring at you and you're like, hold on,
Yeah. Yeah,
it can
right.
be
No one needs
instant.
to know, right? You're just
Right.
yeah, that's what's kind of beautiful about our minds in a way too, right? We can just kind of silently set that intention, ask for what we need, clear that space, and it doesn't need to take long, right? And yeah, that's really beautiful. So how did you come to know that there was more to life, that there is this whole other side, all this other activity, spiritual, paranormal activity going on around us, and that our voices do have a frequency. Like, give us a little bit, of your story and in that framework.
I think I mean, like a lot of us, I saw things as a child,
Mm,
and being a latchkey kid, I didn't have a lot of supervision around, so I didn't really have anybody to program me and say that's not real. Like a lot of kids are, that's just your imaginary friend. Um, I think one of the biggest experiences I had that really kind of shook me and said, okay, there is something else going on. It happened in Fairfax, Virginia. I was 8 years old. We grew up in the Bay Area, but my stepdad he was a cop. He got transferred to Washington, D.C. So we lived in Fairfax. And we were only there for, I think, less than a year. We didn't stay there long. The house was haunted. It was haunted from the beginning. Um, I I had two younger brothers that were kind of annoying me, and I wanted to just get away with that from them, like after school we had this basement, and in the basement was an extra bedroom, and it was so odd. It was painted blue. It had a ram on the wall.
a
It
ram?
was just, yeah,
Yeah.
ram,
Okay.
which is creepy, right?
Yeah, it is.
Um, Even at 8 years old, it was like it was like, okay, this is probably a boy's bedroom, and maybe that's a sports kind of ram, like a boy thing, but it just felt weird, but at that point, I didn't care. We had an extra bed down there, a little twin bed. And I was like, I just need to take a nap. And I laid down in the afternoon and I woke up to the bed shaking. And coming from California, I'm like, oh my God, an earthquake. Right. And I sit up and I see at the foot of the bed, the floor, footboard, if it's like this, I see these really long fingers grasped over it, long kind of bony fingers, and I see like about this much of a head sticking up, and it kind of had like wrinkly kind of grayish clay. Now it was in like the sun was going down, so there wasn't as much light. It was almost like twilight, but enough to see. Um, this stringy black hair and these very, very deep set, really little tiny eyes. And I didn't see the nose. So it was just like these, and immediately I knew that this thing was what was shaking my bed. And I jumped from the bed to the door. Like, I don't even know how I did that, and ran upstairs. And I don't remember anything else from that day. Um, there were other things that happened in the house, but that was probably the biggest moment that I just, how is that undeniable? And I would love to do like hypno regression at some point. I would love to do that and go back and explore that a little bit more, because I can recall it like it was yesterday. Um, and I realized that even as scared as I was at that moment, I knew it wasn't there to hurt me. It was almost like, hey, wake up, let's play,
Oh, wow.
but it still scared the living out of me,
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
moment. And I just felt very open to that side of things. There was, like I said, there was other things that happened in the house. There were other things that happened over the course of my life. um, I think very luckily, I had a stepmom who was into the metaphysical stuff. She's not now, which is interesting. She's kind of gone back into the church side of things and really discounts all the metaphysical stuff. But me and my sister and my niece are like, too late.
Yeah.
you already taught us stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but she kind of set me on the path.
Mm.
I had like dream hypnotherapy when I was like 13. Um, and around that same time, she took me to a trance channeler several times, like maybe three different times. And I learned about past lives that I had and how they're affecting me now and what I need to do to work on them. So I understood from an early age that we come here to work. We come here to try to refine ourselves, refine our spirits and our souls, and hopefully elevate others along with us. And then I think just through all of that work over time, sound and frequency, because I was so into music, and my dad is a music teacher, along with working on cars and all of that sort of stuff. I grew up listening to a lot of classical music, and the way that it moves you, if you really tune into it, I think sort of gave me maybe the beginnings of that understanding that sound frequency has some power.
That's amazing. There's so much there. I love, it connects with what you said before, I think with the Killer 13 about you tend to be, you're approached, your approach. So
Mm,
like that spirit did kind of approach you because you were born like very open to receive all of that and then receiving eventually the knowledge too about frequencies and your voice and the work that you do. So I'm curious, this is probably the last question. I could talk to you for like hours, but um, do you believe, like, is it possible if everyone we can improve our intuition, like expand our own intuition? Do you believe everyone is born with that capacity and um, can honing into your intuition and expanding it help you become a better communicator?
100%. Yeah, I do believe that everybody is born with it. It's like the air. You can't see it, but it's there whether you believe it or not. And you don't have to believe it, but at some point you're going to have to come back and live again and learn about it. I think so anyway, but honing into it and tuning into it's just, my goodness, it's such a helpful guide for life. If you kind of, every day before I get out of bed, I do a little meditation. It's like, okay, what's on the agenda today, you guys? What do I need to do? And I listen to see if there's anything specific. And then I kind of let my creative juices flow and go, okay, this is what I want to do, and it's kind of set a spiritual agenda each day. Just realize that I do that, saying it out loud.
Love that.
But tuning into your intuition, it can help with big decisions. It can help give you confidence on who to have in your life and in your inner circle and who not to, because it's okay to not have certain people in your life who are just not good for your spirit and what you're in your life. I mean, here's a great example of following intuition. This was years and years ago. I just remembered this. My son, I was dropping him off at daycare, so he was about 1.5, and I saw a collision happen right in front of where we were trying to turn in. And I could tell by the car that hit the other one that they were illegal immigrants. This was still in California, and they took off. And it's like, well, of course, they probably don't have insurance, but this mom and her kids just got hit and nobody saw anything. So I drove in really quickly. Here's my son, threw my son, and told the mom, stay right here. And I followed him. And yes, don't ever do this. I'm not a police officer, but it was like I was being driven to follow them just to get information for this mom. And I came up to intersections because, like, where did they go? I don't know where they went. And I came up to an intersection. And it's like, do I turn left, right, or straight? Left. Okay, go left. Okay, left, right, or straight. And I was led to a cul-de-sac, and they were there. And I got out and I talked to them. Now, this is dumb. Don't do this. But I felt at the time that it was okay. If I felt that danger, which that's another good reason to tune into your intuition, I said, you guys need to come back and talk to them. And they did. They were terrified because they were in the country illegally. And I do not do what I do. I'm just illustrating that this is a way that intuition has at least served me. And because I learned how to tune into it. And if we have time, Laura, I have a super quick, easy way for people to hone their intuition.
We'll end with that. I think that would be amazing to give us
Okay.
that experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to know.
Super easy. And this just came to me years ago. And get a quarter. Any coin. I like a quarter because it has some weight to it. Any coin that has a distinct heads and tails, whatever it may be, as long as it's not a two-sided the same. Okay. Do a little grounding for yourself, whatever that is for you, even if it's just taking a few deep breaths. And most everybody knows how to, like, flip the coin, catch it, and and this is the part where you're going to just close your eyes and tune in. And this is the fun part, because there's different ways that people get their intuition. You might hear it, you might see it, you might feel it. That's the different clairs: clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient. This is the way that you can learn how you get your intuition, and you keep doing this, and then you get more comfortable on how you receive information. So let's flip the coin, and then, for example, close your eyes, and we're talking the very first thing that you hear, say, or feel, because your ego is going to make you second guess yourself. And you'll see that process too. And then let's just say you see heads in your mind's eye, and then you see tails, and you see heads, and you see tails. and the last thing you see is tails. So you go, okay, tails, and you open it and it's heads. Then you're going to go, wait a second. The very first thing I did see was head. So you learn to trust it and you learn to know how you receive it. And it's just such an easy,
Love that. I'm gonna be
it's
flipping
50-50.
quarters for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. I love
You
that
know,
so much. Thank you so much for sharing not only like deeper, deeper guidance and wisdom and inspiration with us, but also I love ending with like a practical thing to do today. I wish I had a quarter right now. I'd flip it and see how I do. But I just, yeah, you are fascinating. I can't wait to get to know you more. Tell our listeners like where we can find you, follow you, watch your podcast, all the things. If you anything coming up you want us to know about, because
oh,
you're
thank you
amazing.
so much.
Of
This
course.
has just been an honor for me to be here and to share this time with you and,
Thank you.
get to know you. I get to see you
Yeah.
in a little while.
Can't wait.
I'm going to say we're going to be at the Honoka'a Renaissance Fair,
That's right.
and that's going to be really fun. November 8th. It's just the one day. Hopefully
Yeah.
they get big enough to do it like the whole weekend, right?
That'd be super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Can't
I'm
wait.
looking forward to that.
Thanks.
But I do have a podcast that I do with my soul sister, Kate. It's called Mindful Magic Podcast. It's on YouTube and it's on all the podcast platforms. We try to talk about witchy type things because we love talking about that kind of stuff. Um, we'll share stories, we'll share history, we'll share the certain times of the year and what they mean and how to make them work for you. And we try to infuse everyday life with a little bit of magic. We say putting magic in the mundane. So we talk about even when you're making your coffee, little, simple things like that. Make it with intention, put intention and thought into the things you do, and your world starts to come alive a little bit more. The YouTube channel also does have some guided meditations. Kate does angel readings. You can book that with her, and she's amazing, amazing medium and psychic. And we've written some books. My latest one, which is fun and it's just in time for the spooky season. It's called A Global Anthology of Terrifying Folklore. And that's on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble. And I did some research into just global myths and legends and wrote a little bit about like in Japan, there's this one spirit. And then I wrote a very scary story about it. So that's a fun book for the Halloween season.
Absolutely. I can't wait to check that out. Oh, you are so, yeah, this is all right up my alley. I can't wait to, dive in more with your books and all like all of our listeners, if you need your little witchy fix or just want to add more magic to your day. I love that so much. I set the intention to train my husband to make me coffee in the morning. And it's been a game changer. It's so nice. He doesn't even drink coffee. But yeah, he's getting better and better at it. Even frost the milk for me now. So yeah, magical.
Magical husband.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot. I kitchenwitchhawaii.com. I
Oh,
make
okay.
candles. Let me move. I make some candles and my website isn't, I don't have a lot of inventory right now because I'm trying to make stuff for the Ren Fair, but you can
Yeah,
find me
we'll
there.
definitely be checking that out. And yeah, if you happen to be in Hanukkah for the Renaissance Festival, we will be there. I just can't wait for that. Thank you to all of our listeners. And just remember that the scariest thing is not finding your voice. So I encourage everyone to go out there, tune into their intuition because we're all magical as well. Thank you and see you next time.